Oh, this film expired in 2015. What do I do now? Maybe I'll take it with me to Zion National Park and use it to photograph fall color. I wonder how the film will respond. Keep watching to find out. Fujifilm Velvia 100 was officially discontinued on July 6, 2021, owing to an Environmental Protection Agency ban on the chemical phenol isopropylated phosphate. Apparently, Velvia 100 had 3/10,000ths of this chemical, and that was enough to remove this saturated and vivid film from the ever-slimming sheet film shelves. But not from this guy's freezer. I've been stocked up with this film in the 4x5 size since at least 2012. One of the reasons that I have so much of this film stock left is that since making the transition from shooting the 4x5 size to 8x10 in June of 2015, I've not been as motivated to shoot 4x5. Not that there's anything wrong with shooting 4x5, but 8x10 is my preferred format size. I just really enjoy the experience of shooting ridiculously huge film, although my wallet tells me otherwise. If you're debating between 4x5 and 8x10 format sizes, check out my video on the objective aspects of these formats that might help you decide which format suits your needs best. I'll leave a link to that video in the description. Long story short, I need to expose a lot of 4x5 Velvia 100 even if it's expired. What could possibly go wrong? The bigger question is, what am I going to photograph? Well, usually every year I make it a point to photograph the fall color in Zion National Park. Specifically, I try to meander the washes of the east side of the park to attempt capturing some of the eye-popping color in a compelling manner. But the problem for me is that I've never actually captured any image from that part of the park that I have been happy enough to print ridiculously huge. I've generally been disappointed in my work from these washes. But why? What's the missing element? Last fall, I decided to think more about what was missing from my photographs that I wanted to see. I came to the conclusion that photographs from the east side of the park needed to have three main elements for me. The first of which was fall color, because, well, it's fall. The second being that I needed to see the characteristic red sandstone of Zion because I want the viewer to understand the extent of the beauty that is shielded from the Mount Carmel Highway. And thirdly, I wanted to convey the feeling that these washes lead you on a path to something just around the corner. Ideally, I would combine all these elements into one compelling image with warm, reflected light. Since I've used 8x10 film in these areas previously with unsatisfactory results, I surmised that this would be a great time to experiment with my theory on what I'm missing from my photographs and take advantage of my expired 4x5 film to minimize cost. So I loaded up 8 pieces of 4x5 Fujifilm Velvia 100 and left the Chamonix 8x10 convertible X camera at home. That was such a difficult decision to make, but it's a good lesson on staying focused. But wait, Tony, your film is expired, and that can lead to unpredictable and crappy results. Yes, indeed, I could be making a huge amount of effort and return with absolutely nothing to show for it. There are plenty of experiences that photographers have shared over the years where shooting expired film yielded them undesirable results to the point where they swore not to ever use their expired film on anything important. It even had me worried while I was on my trip. But I have to go back to the fact that I have kept this film frozen from the day I received it in the mail from B&H Photo. I know that I haven't introduced any confounding variables that will result in my expired Velvia 100 to deviate from the expected performance of this film stock. The film should behave normally. It has in the past, so why wouldn't it work now? What could possibly go wrong, right? Okay, let's get into the photographs and see what happened. In this first image, we see a touch of fall color, some red sandstone, and a wash that leads us into the photograph and leaves us wondering what's beyond that corner. All of this is happening in very subtle reflected light. Ding, ding, ding! We have ourselves a winner! It seems like I checked all of the prerequisite boxes for what I've been missing in my Eastside images. Is it time to print this image ridiculously huge? Nah, this image is missing that wow factor for me. Not that I don't think that it's a nice image, but it doesn't grab my attention in a way I want a ridiculously huge image to do. Maybe there's too much sandstone and not enough vegetation. I do like the subtle dramatic light, but you may be thinking, Tony, I thought we were talking about expired film here. Yes, we are. That's the point. Did you notice any problems typical of expired film? I didn't. It's a total non-issue because the film has been frozen from the time I received it in the mail. Wait a minute there, Tony. What about all those shadow areas? They look like they're blocked up. Yes, they are on the dark side, but that's because this scene is fairly high in contrast and really pushed the dynamic range of the film. So what you are seeing is due to the limitations of the exposure latitude and not because of some expired film anomaly. But maybe I just got lucky. Well, let's move on to the next image to see how this unfolds. Oh my, look at this image. Fall color, moderate warm, reflected light, and wait a minute. Where's the red sandstone in the leading path of the wash? Do the sand and leading branches count? Okay, this image did not conform to my prerequisites for photographing these washes. Why did I take this image? I couldn't resist the glow of the reflected light and the fact that I was able to see a scene that was organized in an area that was very chaotic. I enjoy seeing the lines of the roots forming partitions in the wash and, of course, the intensely red fall leaves. There's even a balance between the shapes of the background with the foreground sand. I think that's kind of interesting. By the way, this is expired film. Did you notice? I didn't see anything indicative of a problem owing to the ability of the film to respond to light. Maybe I'm on to something. But I'm not printing this image ridiculously huge too. Again, it's just missing that wow factor for me. If you've been watching my channel, you know I have very limited space to hang ridiculously huge prints in my family's home. So I have to be ridiculously picky. Speaking of being particular, this image definitely does not fit into my intended theme for this trip. However, I am just a sucker for beautiful reflected light. I just couldn't resist this scene as I was walking by it. My intent was to place the yellow flowered bush between the hourglass-shaped lines in the sandstone to act as a frame. In retrospect, I should have shifted the front lens a little bit to get better alignment. What bothers me the most about this image is that I've cut off the bush at the bottom of the frame. I don't recall any difficulties with trying to eliminate any surrounding distracting elements in the bottom of the scene, so I'm chalking this up to an error on this guy's part. By now, you've probably realized that this image is stowed away in a storage box. Did I mention that this is expired film? In this last 4x5 image, whoa! There's a lot going on. Oftentimes, there are so many scenes in Zion that have all these interesting elements that it makes it very difficult to organize all that chaos into a photograph. I think this is exemplary of an image that is in fact chaotic, but weirdly it is somewhat organized. At least for me. The upper third of the image contains the fall foliage ready to, well, fall and is separated from the remainder of this image by a fallen log. This acts as a border to partition it from the stonewash area. The focal point of the bottom half of this image are the two giant sandstone boulders that are surrounded by the smaller granite boulders. It's almost like an eyeball, if you will. An additional layer to this part of the image are the fallen leaves scattered throughout the scene. I find it interesting that the left side of the scene is heavily covered by fallen leaves, and that the right side seems to balance the intensity of the leaf litter with more exposed granite. The upper right-hand corner has a touch of flare, but that could easily be cropped out or darkened. The big question is, will I be printing this image ridiculously huge? No, on this image too. The fall color in this scene is a bit past peak and has taken on a bit more of a crunchy brown appearance. Not to mention, where's the reflected light in this image? Apparently, I decided to deviate from my goals with this image too. This is a scene that I'll maybe revisit again next fall if I can find it again, and maybe I'll use more expired Velvia 100 film. In the end, did I accomplish my goal of capturing scenes that included fall color, red sandstone, and washes acting as leading pathways? I think it was a good step in the right direction for me. However, I'm not sure that the 4:5 aspect ratio helped me achieve my vision for this amazing landscape. I wonder what it would be like if I shot some of these scenes as panoramas on 6x17 film. Well, since my 4x5 backpack also holds my day 6x17 pano back, I took advantage of all that hiking and shot 3 rolls of Fujifilm transparency and color negative film. I'll share those images with all of you as well, but that will have to wait for another video. In case you were wondering, I've only shown you 4 of my 8 total 4x5 images because 2 exposures were doubles and the other 2 were overexposed owing to my error in metering. So, what are my thoughts on using expired film? My position is that if you personally purchased the film from a reputable retailer prior to the film expiring and immediately froze the film upon receiving it within a few days, then the expectation should be that the film will react to light in the way that you would expect with no issues. There's no need to add exposure or compensate for the length of time past the expiration date. At the time of exposure, my Fujifilm Velvia 100 that I shot in Zion National Park was 8 years past the expiration date. In my humble opinion, the film reacted to light the way that it was intended, but I'll leave that up to you to decide whether or not shooting expired film is worth your while. I think it goes without saying that if my film stock wasn't kept consistently frozen for all those years, then I would speculate there to be a high probability that my results would have taken on a whole different appearance, and I would be using some select explicit language to describe the results. For me, I wouldn't bother shopping the used market for expired film because that doesn't fit with my landscape palette vision or style of shooting. Although it's never guaranteed, I like the mostly consistent results that I get when I choose to shoot a particular film stock, assuming I meter correctly. Introducing random surprise color shift anomalies or exposure irregularities into my workflow is just not for me. That's a personal choice that I believe should be left up to the photographer to make. Do you have experience shooting expired film? Please share your stories with all of us in the comments so that we can benefit from your wisdom. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please hit that like button to show your support. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and consider using my Amazon links in the description for items that you had already intended to purchase so that we can both continue creating content. As always, thanks for watching. Oh, shoot!